Well, you know, Ferguson is symptomatic of a larger problem that affects not only Ferguson, Missouri, but across the United States. You know, as police, we've kind of patted ourselves on the back for the last 20, 30 years. We've engaged in community policing. You know, we have a whole different attitude and philosophy about, you know, working with community and so forth. But clearly, there are communities that we have not touched. There are communities, and they tend to be the more challenged communities, often communities of color, where we don't have the legitimacy, and by that I mean they don't view us as people who really have the right to enforce laws or tell them what to do. Sometimes it's because of behavior of police officers and the way in which they've seen us conduct ourselves in the past. Not all cops, but all it takes is one. You know? Well, one of the things we talked about before was, you know, preparing for protests and how important it was. And, you know, we had Occupy Philadelphia, just like they had Occupy, just about every city had some version of it.
Right.
What made me really feel good, and I mentioned it every day at roll call, during roll call, the sergeant would read the First Amendment. People have a right to protest. They have a right to be out there. They're not your enemy. Our job is to see to it that they can peacefully protest, and at the same time, other people can go about their daily routine with minimal interruption without saying anything to them at all. These are some of my heavy hitters here. This is my narcotic strike force. They decided to take a photograph down at Independence Square, and in here is the First Amendment to the United States Constitution written out. They chose to have their photograph taken next to that.
So if you were given advice as we head into these tense moments for the grand jury making its decision, what advice would you give the folks of Ferguson?
Protest, but protest peacefully. Have your voices be heard. You have a right to have your voices be heard, but do so peacefully.
And for the police?
And for the police, allow people to peacefully protest. Understand that they have a right to do that, and to be there to see to it that they have the right to do it. And be there to protect that right. And so if everybody has that attitude, if everybody works together, then their voices will be heard. But more importantly, even after this fades away, after the decision, whichever way it goes, don't stop working toward making a better community and better relationships between police and the community, and get at those underlying problems that really caused this sort of thing to happen in the first place.
You know, two words have come up today: respect and trust. Critical.
If you have both those things, you don't have a problem. Things are a whole lot better. And that's on both sides.